I want to find out if the Porsche Macan Diesel S is the best value for money mid-size SUV you can currently buy. Let's find out.
The winner is Car Right!
So when we talk about the best mid-sized SUV for under £20,000, there's quite a lot to take into consideration. Now, this car is priced at $19,995. We will get into the reason for that in a little moment, but the first place I want to start with the Macan, and I've always been a big fan of the Macan, is the styling, because I think what they've managed to achieve is they still kept a really aggressive, sleek and sporty look with the styling. Some really nice upgraded features on this car that I'm sure some of the keener-eyed viewers of you have noticed. In specific, these gorgeous 20-inch Spider RS style upgraded alloy wheels. It also comes with a black pack on the exterior, privacy glass, and a few other features we'll touch on, but I'm a really big fan. I think the car's 7 years old now and it still looks absolutely mega. There's a couple of homages, they reckon, to some previous very famous Porsches, I must add. These black canards down the side, they suggest are like the 918 Spider. Little bit there, and something that I completely disagree with. Actually, on the brochure themselves, they sing about the bonnet. They reckon the bonnet, with the nice flared over the front wheel, pays tribute to the 917 Le Mans race car. I'm not sold on that one, but there's quite a lot of features that they like to talk about. Obviously, Porsche like to harp on about the success. Certainly, they have had massive success in, obviously, cup racing and also in Le Mans. I can't take that away from them, but I think they cling on to that a little bit too much, which is a shame, because I think the Macan itself is a brilliant car in its own right. It doesn't need to compare itself to anything else. But just come around the back with me, Al. I'm a really big fan. Obviously, the rear lights look perfect, and the quad pipes, you just cannot refute that this is pretty much is a sports car on stilts. It is a phenomenal car. I like the big quad exhausts, give it such a good sporty look. I think the black and white looks really good. So I mentioned actually in relation to why this car's £20,000 is because this car's done over 100,000 miles. But I'll be honest, you wouldn't tell it by looking at it or being inside of it or driving it. So let's jump inside. I want to talk to you about the spec on the interior. And there's also another homage to the 918 Spider that I'll show you now. So let's make a good point and touch on the interior then, because quite like the Cayman video we just did, I find Porsches are very samey on the interior, and for good reason, because I think their interiors don't miss. They are sleek, sophisticated, they're beautifully well made. Everything works perfectly. I still love all the buttons. I think even the new ones, even if you've got the bigger screen, you've still got buttons to play with, which is nice. But for a 7-year-old car, it feels very sleek and modern still inside. So really good job, Porsche. Now, I mentioned the 918 Spider. This steering wheel was designed from the 918 Spider. Now, if you actually went side by side with the photos, which will get you to do out, there isn't much difference between the two wheels. So this is probably the closest I'll get to driving a 918. Anyway, you've got all your creature comforts you'd expect, so nav, cruise control. It's got heated front and rear seats, lane assist, Bluetooth nav. It comes really well spec, this car, but like I said, I'm a really big fan of the interior. I love the Alcantara seats, half leather, half Alcantara. It's just such a nice place to be in this Porsche, and they're just timeless. They don't change, they don't need to change, because it isn't broken. Don't fix it. Let's give it a spin, because I want to find out what that 3-litre V6 diesel engine can provide. So let's give the car a good run then. I want to put it through its paces a little bit, because I've always been very impressed in the looks of the Macan, specifically the Macan S, and I wonder if it drives pretty much in that same remit. Now, engine, it's a 3-litre V6. This is the Diesel S version. Has the all-important 7-speed PDK gearbox. Brake horsepower is in around the 255 to 260 range. 0 to 60 is just over 6, so about 6.2 to 6.3 they suggest. Top speed is limited to 142 mile an hour. Now, being the diesel, there's some really nice big differences. The first one actually is one that surprises a lot of people, including our sales manager, who wasn't aware of this, and he's the all-knowing car guru. 2018 was the last year they made a diesel Macan. Now, I think that's a good thing because of residual values. So the Macan S actually is the same price used now on comparative scale to the petrol S, even though new the petrol was more expensive. Now, I think that's a good thing because the Diesel S is a holding residual value. Now, I think there's one big reason for that. Now, the actual diesel variant, this one here, is a little bit slower. It's about 3/4 of a second slower to 60, but your real-world MPG for this car, it ranges anywhere between 38 to 40. In comparative to the S version, the petrol S version, you get between 22 to 25. So in terms of real-world living, yes, it's 3/4 of a second slower, but anywhere around 6 seconds for a mid-size SUV is pretty quick. And I think the trade-off between the 0 to 60 time and the upgraded MPG is definitely worth considering, I think. And I think that's what a lot of people are valuing nowadays. Obviously, we have a big talk about the, the cost of living crisis, and fuel costs are going sky high now. So such a big key factor. Obviously, diesels are more expensive at the pump, but when you comparatively look at it between your MPG, between the petrol and the diesel outweighs that quite significantly. So I actually want to talk about we're back on, what should we call it? The sheep lane? Sheep lane. We're back on sheep lane, so we're going to give the car a bit of a hoon down here now and see what it's got under the hood. Like I said, 0 to 60 is just over 6 seconds, but it's 580 newton meters of torque. And what I have found is lower end, it actually pulls really, really well. Obviously being a diesel anyway, but it's very torquey and drives very well in those lower speed scenarios as well. So I'm going to slap it in sport mode. I don't know if it's got launch control. If not, we'll do a bit of a brake boost and we'll see how it gets on down the straight. Bloody hell, that launched so well. That's 60 now. Jesus Christ. There was no traction. There was no slip of traction. That was off the line. That's probably after the M5, the quickest thing I've launched.
Jesus Christ.
That was ludicrous.
I felt like all the way through my back. Bloody hell.
That was crazy.
That was nuts.
That was astonishing, actually. I didn't expect it to. It pulled nicely, actually, between the gears. Obviously, it's the PDK gearbox, so it's effortless between the changes, but the traction off the launch was astonishing. I've not had a hook like that in a long time. The only thing that I've been in that hooked as well as that was the M5.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Wow.
I wish there was like a POV camera on my face.
Wait, what was your... yeah, so it's got the Alex seal of approval. I mean, in terms of straight line speed, I'd be very interested to know what that clocked at. I know I shouted 60 out, so... Because it felt a darn sight quicker than 6.5. That felt... To me, that felt high 4s, 5s. Like, genuinely, that pulled ridiculously quick through. So, yes, if you wanted to have some fun launching a Macan Diesel S, you definitely can. And I think you'd be able to surprise a couple of people off the line and passengers as well for that note. So, yeah, I want to give it a bit of a spin round some bends now because I want to find out, obviously being a mid-size SUV, it's not going to handle the best compared to some other Porsches in range, but I wouldn't say in range, sorry, of other Porsches to note that we've driven previously, but I still think the suspension on this, got steel suspension, is pretty good going, and on the way up here it did feel really nicely planted, so we'll jump on some nice twisty B roads and see how it gets on in and around some bends. So now we found out how quick the Porsche is within a straight line, which certainly off the blocks was very surprising. It got up and moved very quickly, and that all synonymous PDK gearbox was very beneficial to that. It's very quick between the changes. Now, I put the car into sport mode now, and I really want to see whether Porsche managed to capitalise and embody really what a Porsche means, and it is the fact that they are chassis cars. They're very thoroughbred, enjoyable cars. They're not the fastest in a straight line. That's never how they've been designed to be. So everything in sport mode now is tightened up, the steering, throttle response and everything's just come a bit more alive. So I'm just going to open the car up now between some of these nice B roads and see how it sits on the road. Now, obviously it is an SUV and it is pretty big, but it does handle really well. The steering's pretty good actually. It's very direct and it doesn't feel, there's a nice feedback through the wheel. You feel pretty well engaged with the drive, which I think a lot of cars nowadays you can feel pretty disassociated with. It still puts you very much in the focal driving position. You feel you are actually making the car move, which is nice, because a lot of these cars now just lose that really. They haven't really got a lot of energy or feel behind them. I think Porsche have always been that way inclined, and I think this Macan S really sort of sticks to that ethos pretty well. So yeah, I think I'm a really big fan of this car actually, because it does perform really well. The MPG is obviously really healthy as well, we talked about, but it does handle really nicely between these bends, as we got told off from a BMW. anyway. But yeah, I'm a really big fan of this car actually. So it sits really nicely on the road. It's also a really nice compromise because the suspension is pretty stiff in the sport mode, but it isn't backbreakingly so. It was a really nice gentle cruise on the way up, and it was very comfortable. It really can, I really think if you had your family in the back shopping, etc., it's just a very nice, it just ticks a lot of boxes actually. It's a well-rounded overall SUV. I don't think there's too many better than this, and I think that's what harks back to the initial question, because it's very important to, it's all good saying, oh, well, my SUV does 0 to 60 in X time and it cost me this, but can it do everything else as well? And that's the key thing I think people need to know if they're buying sort of a Prestige or an SUV like this is there room in the back? You know, can you get your shopping in? Is it affordable to run? Is the MPG healthy? And I think that's why the Diesel S is such a slept-on vehicle, because it offers you all of that and more. On that note, I reckon we should jump in the back out and see how much legroom and headroom I've got. So I'm in the back of the car now. Now I'm 6'1". Now we haven't changed the seating position at all. So I'm 6'1" driving and in the passenger, and there's still plenty of legroom and headroom. In fact, there's a load of headroom. Normally I'd expect to be a little bit more cramped in an SUV like this, because obviously it has got a really nice sloped back for styling. Obviously, like I said, you've got the heated rear seats, but there's quite a lot of space in here really. And obviously people buying this car probably aren't expecting 6'1" kids in the back, but yeah, I'm pleasantly impressed. And if you read up a lot of the reviews about this car, a lot of the negatives were space in the back. I personally don't see it. Do you? So as you can see, there is quite a lot of space in this boot as well. So they haven't lost or compromised either legroom or boot room. So it looks good. It's got space, both front, middle and rear. It's quick, it's well priced, it drives well, it's got great service history, and it's through a great company. Am I missing anything? So let's summarise then. Is this the best mid-size SUV you can buy for £20,000? I think it's highly up there, if not one of the top contenders, because it's not all about it. But if you put a private reg on this car and slapped it on your drive, your neighbour would think you won the lottery overnight. On top of that, not only does it look like a 40-50 grand motor, it drives and performs just like one. Has all the functionality, all the capability you need, yet if you want to slap it around on a B road, it provides so much fun as well. It ticks every box so well. If you're interested, it's on sale at Car Out Limited now. Speak to Jack or Jordan, or actually Brandon's going to be starting in a few days as well. So if you want to give Brandon his first sale, that would be the car to buy off him. On that note, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, give it a like, comment and subscribe. Yeah, see you next time.